Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to map and warp an existing textile image to an object. So like I said, depending if you are an interior major or a fashion major, choose the appropriate image. For the example, I'm going to be using a chair, but like I said, if you're a fashion major, then make certain that you use an item of clothing, keeping in mind, do not choose an image to begin with that already has a pattern on it. Color's fine because we can get the color out of it. That's not an issue. And what I'm going to do is show you how to do that right now. So what I'm going to do first is I've opened just a 5x5 300 DPI document to drag. I'm going to drag this chair on into it. And so I have something like this, and I'm just going to hit enter. I'm not going to be using this chair for the demo. I'm going to just use this one to show you how to get the color out, just because it's a poor resolution is all. So what I'm going to do first thing is I'm going to turn off the, just go here. I'm going to go over here and grab the eraser tool. If you click and hold, at the bottom there's something called the magic eraser. And if you notice, it's not going to let me do anything because I need to come over here and rasterize the layer. So I'm going to do this and right click, rasterize. Now it's rasterized, and I'm going to turn this off so you can see. So now we have a transparent on the bottom layer so you can see where you're actually going to be touching. So I'm going to hit white there, and I'm going to hit white there. And that's how you take out the background. So the magic eraser is perfect for an image that just is sitting in a white background. Remember, if you're extracting a chair out of an existing image that's in a setting, it's a photograph, you may have to use your, remember, come here, your select and mask tools to get it out and select only that and put it on its own layer. So depending on what item that you choose. So now what I'm going to do is just go back here. Now I want to remove the color out of it, and so there's a couple of things, and every image is going to be a little different. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and the first thing I'm going to do is just turn it black and white and say OK. Well, this obviously is still too dark for me because I'm going to be putting a print on top of it. So now I'm going to do some adjustments again. Image, I'm going to go to Adjustments. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try exposure. And let me see, play around with this. And guys, every image is going to be different. So, I mean, I wish I could tell you there was some kind of exact way that everybody's going to do it the same way, but that is just not the case. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm all right with that. Hit OK. Now what I might do is go back to Image Adjustments and play with levels. And if you move down this way, it'll brighten it a little, and you can play with some of the arrows in here, and like I said, just adjust it to where you feel you've got some good shadows, some good contrast, and some bright areas to work with as well. I'm going to hit OK, and then another one that you could probably use is brightness and contrast, and you can brighten it up a little, add a little more contrast for shadow. But like I said, every image is going to be different, and hit OK. So that's how you get the color out, and then you get it a little bit brighter so we can start putting some actual textiles on it. So what I'm going to do now is hold the shift key, select both of these, and drag them to the garbage. Well, that one's not going to let me because it's locked. So, okay. And let me just drag this in. And I'll go ahead and keep this. Now I'm going to go use this one. So where is it? I'm just going to take this one, drag it in, and hit OK. I've already kind of taken this a little bit in terms of color, but I want to play some more with it. So first thing we're going to do is go to Rasterize Layer, and so now I can work with it, but I wanted to show you one that actually had like a bright saturated color on how to do this one. This one's pretty easy to do. So I'm going to turn off the bottom layer so I can actually see what's happening around it. Back to my magic eraser, and looks like that's pretty clean. So now what I'm going to do is hit V for selection, go to Image, Adjustments, and then I'm going to play with brightness and contrast first on this one. Actually, you know what? Let's go to Image, Adjustments. Let me do this black and white. Even though it's gray, I'm going to go ahead and knock any sense of color out of it. Okay, now Adjustments. First thing I'm going to go to on this one is brightness. I want to kind of brighten that up a little. Contrast. And, if you're not sure what things do, take it to the extreme. You're like, oh, okay, that's what that does. So hit OK. Image, Adjustments. And like I said, maybe exposure might brighten it. It's too much. Like I said, every image is going to be different that you choose, so you just have to get something you feel is going to work for you. Now I'm going to hit OK. And so I have this. And now what I'm going to do is take a textile that I found online, or you can use one that you've already created. I'm going to drag this in, and I'm going to put it on top of the chair. And let's say this is the textile that I want. Also, too, I'm wanting this a little larger, so I'm going to hit Command-T, and I'm going to hold the Shift and Alt key so I can pull it out from the center and make this larger. And now I want to zoom out so I can still continue to grab it and make this a large print on top of it. So if I'm okay with that, I'm going to hit OK. Next thing I'm going to do is, remember, go to Normal. Look at all these wonderful blending modes that we're starting to discover, and we've been using this one a lot, so go to Multiply. And now look what has happened. And now we can start to see the shadow underneath this. Next thing you do is just hold the Alt key, don't click until you see the box, and clip this to it. Now I'm doing this so that way I didn't have to select anything. For me, it's easier for me to come in now and just grab my eraser tool, because notice this has actually clipped to it. I could have gone to Mask and selected all this out and blah, 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 but it's just easier for me to come in here on this one and just grab the eraser. Remember, we were still on Magic, so take it back to this one. Go to the layer where it's on. It's not going to let me do anything until I rasterize it, so I'm going to right-click, rasterize the layer, and then now make sure that my flow is at 100 and 100, which it isn't. So I'm going to hit 0 for the shortcut, and then Shift 0 for opacity and flow, and then I'm just going to erase these away. Now remember, if you're doing something like that and it gets all shaky, let me zoom in with Z. Back to E for eraser. If you click and hold the Shift key while you click, it'll actually create a straight line, and then I'm going to let that up, and then you can come back in. I'm going to make my brush bigger now because I'm away from the edge, and just erase that away. And this to me is just a little easier, a little faster than dealing with the selection mode. So same thing here, I'm just going to erase that off. And then come back over here, erase that off the edge. I'm going to clean them up in just a second, and then this one. Alright, now back up here, I'm going to make my brush smaller again so I can get in on this edge. I'm going to click here, hold the Shift key to create a straight line, and just go back and forth. And then just put that away. You want to keep a smaller brush close to the edge so it's nice and clean. If you just come in with that big brush, you're going to go up into the sofa here. Or into the chair, sorry. And do that. Same thing here. Oops. And then click right here. And should watch me do that. Also, too, you can see that they are on the brackets here as well. These little bins, so we could have done this in the Mask and Select, but for this, it's just easier for me just to come in with an eraser tool as well. I know exactly what I want to do. Get some of these off. And what I'm going to do is now pause the video so you don't have to watch me do all of these, and I'll be right back, okay? Okay, so now that I've gotten that done, and I've got all this detail erased out, so up through the edges you can see here. Now, I mean, we could go with this, and yeah, you can see the shadow, but what I wanted to show you was how to use Dodge and Burn, which will help allow you to do some highlighting and some shadow work. So what you're going to do with that is, over here, is if you come down here, and yours will probably look like this because you haven't used it before. It looks like a lollipop. That's what I call it. I don't, you can, whatever it might be. But the Dodge tool actually lighten an area, and then the Burn tool will actually darken an area. You can see. And then the Sponge tool actually works with saturation. So if I hover just for a second, changes the color saturation in areas of an image. So this is something that we won't be working with this, but just to let you know what it can do. So I'm going to go back to Dodge, and it lightens first. Now, if I were just to come on top of this and just start dodging, dodge, 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 here we go, dodge, let me turn this up to, and let's say I've just really messed it up, and it's like, wait, I'm working on this, and so I've been working destructively. So I'm going to do Command Z and Command Alt Z to go back in Photoshop more than one time, remember? What I'm going to do is I want to actually dodge and burn on a different layer. Now if I were to add a new layer, which makes sense, and then I start dodging and burning, nothing happens. So what we need to do first, can I make this work where we can work non-destructively, and then someone comes in later and says, you know what, we've changed this textile completely, let's add this textile. You're like, no problem. You just change out this layer and you already have your shadow and highlights, and if you were to have worked destructively, you would have had to have changed out the textile and redo all the highlights and shadows you've put in. So this is a way around that using dodge and burn. So what I'm going to do first is just go to File, and then I'm going to Edit and Fill, and go to 50% gray. Don't make up your own 50% gray over here. That kind of looks like 50% gray. Use the one that says 50% gray and hit OK. And you're like, well, all right, look what's happened. Now what we're going to do is we've been using some of these blending modes. Let's go down to one. It's called Overlay. And that will hit this in terms of 50%. And now what I'm going to do is take this and clip that to here. And I can begin the process. Now when I go over here to dodge and I do something lighter, see how it's working, but it's on its own layer now. So fill it with 50% gray, hit the overlay blending mode, and what that'll do is bring everything to, like I said, a neutral 50%, and you can either dial it up with your dodge and burn or dial it down in terms of shadow and highlights. So I'm just going to work my way around some areas that I might want to highlight a little, maybe around here. I definitely, right on this edge, want to do a little bit there. Maybe highlight up here a little. Definitely here to kind of separate this from the back of the chair. And maybe down here. And then you can make your brush bigger, and the bigger your brush is, the softer it'll get. And then maybe a little bit right here. I'm going to make my brush smaller again, because this kind of seemed to have one, so I want to accentuate that one. And then go back, and I'm going to definitely want to highlight here. And then inside some of these tufts, maybe, on this edge. And then in here as well. And then you can work your way around and highlight, and you can go back and add more if you need to. But you can see what's already starting to happen is that we're starting to get some contrast. And that's the whole beauty of this, is like you don't know if something is dark unless you have a light to contrast it with, and vice versa. So I'm putting in some lights, like I said, but keep it soft and a larger brush, making certain that you are on soft round brush too. You might for some reason not be on it, so make certain that you are, and you just drop down here to double check that. And come over here. Now what I'm going to do is come back over here. Now I'm going to burn a little. And by burning, there he is. I definitely want to make this one larger. Up here you control the exposure. I keep mine to about 5% so I can build it up slowly, because if you just come in and start doing 30%, 20% burn, whatever it may be, it's going to be a disaster. So now I'm going to come in here and notice the shadow work. I'm going to accentuate a little shadow right into this cushion. A little bit here, a little bit here, maybe a little bit back here on the edge. I also like to put a little dark on the edge of things that are especially soft, just right on the edge, because as things go away from us, they tend to get darker at the edge. So I just want to put a little bit there to kind of clean it up a little. Same thing here. And then, like I said, just a little dark under here, maybe a little dark here. I wanted to darken the legs a little to accentuate the shadow side. You certainly could. And you just work your way around. I mean, there's a lot more I could do, but just to show you, I'm bringing out this cushion right here. And I want to bring out the edge here where it's softer and or lighter here. And now what I can do is kind of zero. If I turn off this burn and dodge, you can see the difference of what you're doing in terms of adding a little bit more dimension to this. Okay? All right, good luck. Thank you.